Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and we're going to be looking at the price, the current trend. If you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also, check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, we've followed this move for a long time. We've had these bunny hills forming, right? These bunny hills that take us up and back down and up, back down, and then up. Now, the key level to look at, again, as we've discussed, is the 20-week moving average. Currently, it's at 10,820 according to this chart. Remember, it can vary by $1 to $200 depending on exactly what chart you're looking at. Approximately $1 to $200. Now that we've moved up another level, the key thing here is just identifying the fact that, if we come back down, right? I can't tell you if we're going to come back down or not. If we come back down, it is still business as usual. In fact, you could argue that coming back down would be more business as usual than going up. Because if we continue to go up, we almost certainly will be getting into short-term bubble territory. It does not mean that we're on a different track. It just means that it's possible. Just like in 2019, we saw a bubble at 14K. And every step of the way, we've identified the fact that at any point, you must be ready for short-term bubbles that can happen. So, with that in mind, looking at the price of Bitcoin now, it's currently at 13,500 or so. If we were to break through this, area of, you might call it resistance, at approximately, 14K or so, which was, essentially our local top during 2019. If we break through it, and continue on up, then I would certainly consider that to be short-term bubble territory. So you need to be ready for that. Again, I can't tell you what's going to happen. There's not a single person out there that can tell you exactly what's going to happen in the short term. But I just want you guys to be ready for what happens if it does. So if it comes back down, the first thing, right, if it comes back down to 12K, this is business as usual. And what we're going to want to look for is that 20-week moving average continuing to go up. It's currently at approximately 10,800. Okay, so if the 20-week moving average is going to be playing catch up here. So as that comes up, if we do drop back down and hold support on that again, this is great, right? This is great for the macro bull case of a multi-year bull market. This would be great, and we might be in this range for a while, as we showed before. We've been in this, we've seen this type of movement where we pop up and then we move sideways for, 13 weeks or so. Another time we pop up and we move sideways for 12 weeks. Here we go again, popping up to a new level. Moving sideways for a few weeks would be business as usual. And you could argue that would be better for Bitcoin if it were to cool down a bit. Because the quicker it moves up, the more likely you will see a nasty correction in the short term. And so you just have to be aware of this. If you, especially if you are more of the buy and hold strategy, but if you get sick to your stomach when you watch your portfolio value go up and then drop 40%, what would be ideal would be to see Bitcoin establish support in a new regime. Okay. And essentially that doesn't, there's not a specific number, right? But it essentially just means moving sideways for a while. And some people will call this, if it does move sideways for a while, I guarantee you a lot of people will call it a distribution phase. And that we're going to be heading back down to, $1,800 Bitcoin, $3,100 Bitcoin. Rest assured though that we are still on track, right? If you look at our regression curve, we are still very much on track. Nothing is out of the ordinary here. We're still within our regression curve, which, by the way, peaks at currently just under 15,000. The lower bound is approximately 68.56, which, by the way, also corresponds to the 200-week moving average. Again, the 200-week moving average is kind of like our place where Bitcoin has historically been able to hold the line, at least on a weekly timescale, in a bear market. Yes, there have been wicks to the 300-week moving average, but for the most part, if you look at where we found support, it was the 200-week moving average, and this currently is basically half the price of where Bitcoin is currently. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go down to the 200-week moving average. I just want you guys to be cognizant of where it is. A lot of people ask me, well, what's the lowest you could see us going? The 200-week moving average is always a possibility. Do I think that's going to happen tomorrow? No. Okay, I do not think that's going to happen tomorrow. Now, if we track this, right, you can see a general trend here, right? And this is what I want to draw your attention to. Now, drawing imaginary lines on a chart really are essentially meaningless. I definitely just use the risk levels that I talk about on the channel to trade. But if you draw a line here, just kind of connecting these peaks and looking, generally looking at these bunny hills that form, and then also trying to catch the bottoms as well, more or less, right? You can see generally how this move might extend if we were to stay on this path, okay? And so what I mean by that is, we come into this, we have a little bunny hill and come back down. And then another one, and then we come back down. And then another one. So if the trend were to continue of printing bunny hill after bunny hill, and we come back down, it's nothing to be worried about, right? It's the same thing as always. And then we come back up, right? And then if we continue this pattern, so basically just continuing the pattern that we've seen, coming back down, coming back up, and just going through the motions time after time, then you can see how it could take another year, approximately, anyways, to get to a sustainable 20K, right? I mean, looking at the fourth quarter, I mean, we've mentioned many times the fourth quarter of 2021 as kind of the earliest that I could see a sustainable 20K that essentially would start here, okay? So that would be and essentially extending out to the first quarter of 2022. So this is more or less where I'm looking at for Bitcoin to get to a sustainable 20K in that regime right there. And you can see a plausible path to getting there just if even our bullish trend continues. And what I mean by that, right, is having corrections along the way. Now, obviously, there's a possibility that we come up quicker and have a short-term bubble to 20K. Even if this happens, right, even if something like that happens, I don't think it changes the game in the sense of, can we hold it at that point? I don't think we would be able to hold it at that point. Note that even if you believe the 4-year cycle theory is true, so for my 4-year cycle enthusiasts, if you think it's true, remember the very first time that Bitcoin tested the prior all-time high in the last cycle was at the beginning of January, okay? But then it actually retraced back down 36%. So even if you're of the camp where you think that the 4-year cycle theory is true, and by that, when I talk about the 4-year cycle, I mean you think that the price of Bitcoin will peak at 100K in 2021 at the very least, and you think that we need to get to 20K in the next few months, right? Because during the last cycle, Bitcoin reached a sustainable prior all-time high in the first quarter of the year. Remember that it actually tested between $1,000 to $1,100 before it held it as support. So the first time it tested it, and then retraced by 30 to 40%. So even if you're of the camp of the 4-year cycle, you need to be cognizant of the fact that if Bitcoin does go up to 20K over the next 2 to 3 months, there's a really good chance it will not break through it on the first attempt, and that it could retrace back down 30 to 40%, all the way back down to $13,000 to $14,000. Okay, you need to be aware of this possibility, because even if the 4-year cycle theory is something that we can remotely to be considered true, which I don't think it is, but even if it is, and and we do repeat the last cycle, and we see a short-term bubble to 20K before retracing, and then revisiting 20K a few months later, maybe in March or something, you have to recognize that the first test of it will likely be met with resistance. Okay, so just recognize that. Recognize that we're probably not just going to shoot through it and go to 100K in the next 5 months. So with that said, I think we'll wrap it up. Remember, we do have the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. You can check it out. You get access to weekly videos, weekly reports, Telegram alerts channel, a private Telegram chat room, and a risk dashboard, which is what I use to trade. You can pay with crypto for 12 months and get a 15% discount. So check it out. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content. trying to get to 50,000 subscribers. Please help me get there, and I will see you guys next time.